You're going to judge me, but it's fine. I'm used to that.
Always. Welcome to 5-3 Podcast. I'm Doria, joined by my former coworker turned co-host, Brittany. Hey, Brittany.
Hi.
And
We're really excited today.
We are very excited today because we are celebrating hitting double digits in our podcast. This is our 10th episode, which is why we have a special guest who also happens to be a former coworker to both Brittany and I, Jace. Hey, Jace.
Hey, Doria. Hey, Brittany.
Hey.
Good to see y'all again.
It's good to see you too. So obviously we've all worked together. We have relationships. However, you're new to our listeners. And I think it'd be helpful if you introduced yourself to our listeners, just a high level. Who are you? How do you know us crazy chicks? And
yeah, great. I can do that. So we all worked together once upon a time. Brittany came in to actually take my place when I left. And
just
Doria
diving right in there.
Change into the guard.
Right in there. Yep, absolutely. But now I'm actually working on the private investigative side, helping executives make sure that they are protecting their identity and also just keeping people safe. So still similar line of work, just in a different industry.
Yeah, definitely. And also certainly top of mind for a lot of people given recent events. Before we dive into today's topic, I have some updates for you both on the Karen Read case. So Brittany and I had previously done a deep dive, a 2-part series on the documentary on Karen Read. And we also shared some information regarding who was joining her legal team pretty early because it's being shared pretty quickly up here. I have a couple updates for the two of you. So I'm curious to see how you feel about what's going on here. Are you ready? Okay. So jury selection has begun. As we know, the retrial began as of April 1st. Folks are lining up outside the courthouse. We have now learned through news sources up here that Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor assigned to Read's second trial, is a prominent attorney who once defended notorious crime boss James Whitey Bulger. And if you're, everybody knows who he is, right? But especially up here, like that's such a notorious case. When I saw that, I was shocked. This is not going to be like the last trial. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. The other fun fact that was recently circulated.
Do we also find it interesting that he protected the mob essentially at one point? And I'm gonna leave it there.
I
I'll leave it there.
Minds have gone there.
I feel like that's kind of what happens at this point. Whenever you're getting into these high-profile cases, you're looking for that high-profile attorney that helps somebody significant, right? So if they can if they can help him get to a better place in his trial, I'm sure he's feeling pretty confident that this could help out.
Absolutely. Talk about like a resume. That is quite the resume. Regardless of what side of the courtroom he's on, that was wild to me when I read. Again, this whole trial, succession of trials, could not get crazier.
Hold your horses. It's just getting started.
100%. This is just like this is day 2. It's wild.
Day 2.
Yeah. The other thing that recently got circulated up here is that Michael Proctor, former lead investigator who was fired for misconduct, will testify in the next trial. So there was questions as to whether or not he would. Now, he obviously will not be an investigator. And what I've read is that there's different stipulations being put on those who are in the courtroom and those who are testifying. So they can't wear any insignia, any buttons, any clothing, or hold up pictures or wear pictures of, showing their support for either side, which we saw a lot of, right? Which ironically, it was pink and blue. I thought that was a little interesting. Pink for Karen, blue for John. But the other thing that I read is that officers will not be allowed to wear their uniforms or any police emblems and insignia when they testify, which I think makes sense. I think for the jury to be really objective and to not feel the weight of the policeman or woman in front of them, police person, I think it makes sense for them to be a bit more objective and not have them wear that uniform when they testify. So
I think a lot of times when people see a police officer, you just see authority. And so you kind of feel like you have to believe what's coming out of their mouth. But in order to be subjective or to be objective in this particular case, you really have to think about the jury and what they're going to think, right? So I imagine there was a lot of hearings prior to this where they're like, absolutely no badges and uniforms. We need a fair trial, and we're not going to get that in that case.
Yeah. And the odds are already, I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it will be for them to actually select a jury. I was reading the judge is really looking for jurors who can be objective, who haven't had enough predetermined, judgment on the case where they can actually take in information and not make a judgment based on the last trial. So that's what they're going for. But this has gotten such widespread acknowledgement. I can't imagine how difficult it's going to be for them to find jurors. I did not get called for jury duty.
Unfortunately.
I was like, wouldn't that be wild? Brittany and I were
Come
joking.
on.
I'm like, oh, we will podcast that for sure. Me not getting selected because they're like, hey, I actually, again, when it comes to what I think may or may not have happened, I'm open to either situation. But I think for me, it's more of like the bias from where I'm from in Massachusetts versus where this happened. That could actually be problematic. So
absolutely.
Either way, crazy. All right. So today's topic, which I think is perfect for the three of us to discuss, is things people do on social media that risk their safety, privacy, and security. And I think people will be surprised to hear some of the things that we flag between the three of us. So,
oh yeah.
Jace, you're a guest. What is one thing that you see people do on social media to kick things off where you're like, oh my goodness, do you understand the risk, the exposure?
Yeah, it may seem super trivial because most people do this, but posting live, what's happening in the moment. You're on a vacation or you're at a restaurant and you can't wait till you get home, right? You're posting it right then. That is telling me a lot, right? It is telling me where you are. It is telling me that you're not at home. And then where you are, it can help me figure out where you live. So now I have your name. I have what location generally that you're at. And just those two pieces of information can help me identify all the way down to an address and a phone number for you without knowing anything else about you. So I always recommend, and one thing that I do is I don't post when I'm at a location. I will generally wait till a day, a week later before I'm posting my experience, right? So just something that most people don't think about.
Yeah. I think that's such a good thing to flag because people, and let's be serious, like even live streaming is so popular. There's been a ton of cases recently with streamers who have actually been attacked while streaming. But even for the average person,
that's rough. I worked in the live streaming space for a while, and those cases it's heartbreaking because a lot of the times it's someone who's just playing a game completely innocent and people just decide that that's their target for the day. And it's terrifying. There are people who've been killed as a result of that.
Yeah.
And it seems so harmless, but when you're part of these online communities and you're making yourself vulnerable and accessible in these spaces, you also put a target on yourself to kind of be on the tail end of some of this stuff, which is absolutely terrifying if you think about it.
Absolutely. Brittany, what's one of the top things that you see on social media and you're like, oh my gosh, no, abort, delete it?
Oh, anything with kids. I think parents and social media, I think there's a gap in there. And one thing I'll call out, and Jace, I don't know if you feel the same way, but people who work in our industry, we call it trust and safety. We keep the internet safe, like all of these really cool taglines and slogans. We are really good at talking to each other, and we're really good at building policies and processes to keep people safe. We do not do a great job of talking to our communities and our parents. I was talking to someone recently about a platform that their kid was on. And I asked if they've been to the Trust and Safety Center, if they've reviewed kind of what the parental controls are there. They had never heard of it. They had no idea what the term trust and safety meant.
Right.
And I was like, well, how do you keep them safe? They're like, oh, I've logged into their account before and just like seen what they do. I'm like, you're missing out on so much. And as much as, we trust our peers in this space to build things that are safe, we also know that there's some terrible people out there. So when I think about us being better at talking to the communities that we serve ultimately, I think there's a big gap there that people don't know about. And that creates some risks for children, and even posting pictures of your kids online. New parents of young kids love to show off their babies doing really cute baby things. I think my big one, I don't think people realize, is when you post a picture of your baby in the bathtub, right? It's a cute baby photo, innocent. Those photos get scanned for inappropriate child imagery. Those photos are being reviewed by somebody somewhere else in an office to confirm that that is a photo of a nude child. And then there's potential for that to also be sent and reported to a reporting authority, right? And it's very well intentioned. But the other part of that, I'm like, this one it kills me because a lot of the times when people have children that get involved in these situations where they terrible things happen, it's typically someone you know. So you're making that content accessible to people that are likely within your circle that you're not aware of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. So I haven't talked about this yet on the podcast, but I used to work in the marketing creative space. And when I did, I actually dabbled in the influencer side as well. And so we worked with a lot of major brands and a lot of locations. And my kids were a part of it in the sense that our angle, because everyone has an angle, right, was neurodiverse global travel. We traveled a lot as a family. I saw it as an area that people weren't really talking about a lot at that point. And we were able to really leverage that to create a lot of content about accessible travel, especially with young kids with neurodiverse profiles. However, one of the things that I never did in the early days at all was post a picture of my children, profile or from the front. It was always from the back of their heads. It was typically not full body. It was never the same day or time. It was never someplace we frequented. So schools, cafes, jump parks, like things like that. Don't put your children's name out there either, because all you need to do is figure out like where this person is, call their child by name. And the next thing you know, you've got a kid who, again, is innocently like, oh, they must know my mom and they must know me. So here I go off on my merry way. There's just so many things I saw other parents do where it was like, do you not realize how easy it is to figure this out? Especially with
my first day of school, my teacher is
yes,
Mrs. Doria.
Whatever elementary.
Exactly.
Like,
I don't even need to know the elementary school. Like,
right.
I need to know what city you're in. I can find that teacher, the teacher's name.
Absolutely.
Easy to search, right?
Well, and think about things like honor roll lists. Those get published. Oftentimes they're searchable online. So all I need to know is Brittany is on the honor roll in Kentucky and
I'm in Kentucky.
Right. Let me figure out where she is. Oh, I know she goes to this Starbucks. So, hey, that actually makes sense because it's within 5 miles of this elementary. Like, bingo, I've got you. And again, like social media is meant to be a way to connect. We also know it's a way to monetize. Realistically, these apps, their first goal is not to keep you safe. It's to give you exposure to things that are going to make you act in a way that they can monetize.
And I think we all know that too, because like we've seen it, we've done it, right?
100%.
Like think about how many times at the many companies that we've worked at, so where you're trying to do something that'll make your user safer, but it's competing with monetization and competing with business goals, right? And so it's not like, oh yeah, this is common sense. Rather, it's like, but the user experience, the money loss.
I have a good one for that, actually.
Come on, let's hear it.
I just had this discussion with someone yesterday, and it's about dating apps, because dating apps you can consider a form of social media and social interaction. Yeah. They don't run background checks. And so it's very much what is your risk tolerance? And similarly to meeting people through Instagram, people sliding into your DMs, what is your risk tolerance? And are they responsible for controlling that and being mindful? Because running background checks is going to impact their bottom line. They have to pay for it. But the other side of that too is the policy creation that goes around it. At what point do you draw the line and say you cannot join the dating app because you have a background? And at what point does that kind of limit someone's ability to date when you think about reform, you think about growth, you think about what is the statute of limitations for some of these things? I don't know. It's a fascinating area, but I think that's an example of where there's an option to do something to keep people safe. It could be well-intentioned, but the policy creation and the costs around that could be really prohibitive.
Right. Let's talk about dating, because you and I have joked quite a bit, Brittany, about certain aspects of your dating. I think it's like a running joke at this point that, you don't.
Thanks.
Yeah. Not you, but the fact that you had accidentally said you didn't think that we were essentially kidnappable, that you don't know the last names of people you date. But the reality is you actually are very safe about the way that you go about online dating. So can you share a little bit about that? Because again, we joke about it a lot, but realistically, under all of that, on a very deep personal level, you are actually very mindful of how you go about online dating.
I am incredibly mindful. And the last name thing, I don't need to know someone's last name
never let you let that go
on the first 2 dates with them. I don't need to know their last name because I know everything else I need to know about them. Like if I have a phone number or I have your picture, I've got all I need to figure out who you are. I can Google reverse image search you if I'm not getting anything based off your phone number. I will find you. And that sounds creepy, but it's a matter of what do I know about you? Do I feel safe?
Right.
What is my risk tolerance? Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to we all have those different levels. But I think a big part of it is also just sharing where I'm going, what I'm doing, photos of the person I'm meeting up with, where we're supposed to be. There's just those little details and making sure you're meeting up in a public space wearing something that is maybe a little bit brighter. You plan to be abducted.
I was just going to
really
say, you're
weird.
building the profile for someone to share if something goes wrong, right?
Always talk to a stranger, which sounds really weird. But if you're going out and you're going to a restaurant, talk to the waitress, compliment them, ask them a question so you're having that interaction with them. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's those little things that we do. So if anything does go sideways, you hope it doesn't. You've left your breadcrumbs, you've left your cookie trail or whatever they do in Hansel and Gretel. Is it breadcrumbs? Cookies?
Breadcrumbs, cookies.
Yeah.
Leaving their cookies.
So that's
what are they, like Girl Scouts here?
When someone gets pulled over, and I don't know if you know this, but one of the first things an officer does when they're approaching the vehicle
touches the back of the car.
Correct. They're going to leave fingerprints. They're going to leave their mark, right?
Yep. 100%.
And a lot of people don't know why they do that, but that's exactly why, right? If they were to get in some type of an altercation or be taken, abducted, right?
Exactly.
There is evidence left on the exterior of that vehicle. It's going to allow you to be found, right?
Yeah.
It's that evidence that you might need.
100%.
Something so small, so subtle. Another thing I do too, when I go out, I have a couple of really close, trusted friends that I share my location with regularly, right?
Yep.
And these are people that I know are good to go. So I can be at ease to know that if something happened to me, somebody can look up my last location and say, oh, last time they were seen was here before their phone shut off, right?
Now, Jace, you're married. Do you share your location with your spouse at all times?
Absolutely.
Brittany and I talked about
okay.
Do. So do I. So Brittany and I talked about this. So just for reference for anyone who's listening or watching, Jace and I are both married. We've actually both been married for almost about the same amount of time, which is funny. And then Brittany is not currently married. And so when we talked about it previously, one of the things I brought up was like location sharing with my partner. He and I have, not only do we have like the Apple Share on, but we also have Life 360 on all of our family phones and we share location. We also have Bark on our youngest phone. And I'll talk about that a little bit, but we definitely location share. And, Brittany and I were kind of kidding around about it because she's like, well, that person doesn't need to know like where I am. I'll tell friends. And that makes sense for someone who is not married per se. Yep.
But I also said if I was married, I'm not sharing my location.
That was the other thing.
Maybe it is that mindset that is probably why I'm not married. I'm like, stay out of my business. Maybe that's why I'm doomed to keep dating Doria.
That's so funny.
I would say like for me here, everything we do is in a partnership, right? We're very similar in the goals that we're trying to reach. We're really working together collaboratively to do most things, right? And so I look at my partner as my best friend. Also the person that I would want to know where I'm at if I ever needed something. And it's vice versa. For us, it's not like, oh, I don't trust you or you're going to use this to try to track me down. It's a matter of, hey, this is more convenient for us. And we just feel more safe knowing that we can reach out to each other in case something happens, right? So it's worked out for us. There's never been this trust issue that it maybe birthed from or originated from. Rather, it's just something that's very convenient for us and also allows us to feel more secure and safe.
What's so interesting is, so I have been married a long time as well. And I'm a very independent person in my relationships in general. What? And I am in my marriage. I know. Brittany's shocked here.
Color me shocked.
I feel like we have three different flavors of things here because obviously Brittany has her situation. Jace has his. For me, I do location share. And one of the things I said to Brittany was like, hey, if I'm someplace I'm not supposed to be doing something I shouldn't be doing, I'll own it and he'll catch me and it'll be what it is. Like, come what may, whatever, if I'm making that choice, I'm making that choice. So
that wasn't what I said. I said, my example was explicitly, what if I like to buy gifts for people? What if I'm buying a gift for this person and they find out that I'm buying a gift for them?
No, but
also no one needs to know my business.
That was what it was. Okay. So for Brittany, it's no one needs to know my business. For me, it's know my business and know I'm going to own the consequences of my business if you choose to look. And for Jace, it's we're partners. Jace is like very, very healthy in this. We're partners. We're in it together. We have shared goals. And also this is the person you'd want to share. Hey, my spouse is missing. Can I be honest? My husband and I have a running joke that if I go missing, my sister needs to be the one to state what I look like, what I was wearing, and where I was, because my husband has severe ADHD, diagnosed, by the way, and absolutely could not tell you any of those things. So my sister is actually my emergency contact, not my spouse.
What's funny about that is my wife is definitely not my emergency contact because she wouldn't answer her phone.
You gotta know, right?
I'd be dead by the time
the limitations of your spouse.
She answered 100%. She sent me something on Instagram the other day that made me laugh, and it was something about like, I'm only 4 missed phone calls away, and I'm like, that's the truth, 100%.
Hey, she knows.
She'll send me to the store. Yeah. Hey, can you get some stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I'll head right there. And then she won't tell me what it is. She doesn't answer the phone.
Jason's at the store, just like, walking around.
Please.
Yeah. She's like, oh, he's by this aisle. Let me just tell him what it is now.
Absolutely.
See, who needs to know what aisle you're? See, the other thing about this is it drains your battery. Maybe this is different. Maybe one day I will
on my list of priorities.
So smitten and so in love that I'm like, I will drain my phone's battery for you.
Oh, it's not love. It's like it honestly, when Jace said convenience, remember my example of like, Jace, this will resonate with you. If your spouse is out and going to multiple destinations and you're like, oh shoot, I need them to pick up this thing, wouldn't you check their location and see if they've already gone past it?
Every time. 100%.
Exactly.
That's like a regular usage.
Right. Because you're not going to call them or text them and waste their time when you can just take a look and be like,
I'm going to waste my own time?
100%. That's what
on the other side of it,
it's wasting each other's time effectively.
So then I'll waste their time, not my time.
No.
On the other side of it, let's say I'm at work and wife feels like cooking, right? And she wants to make sure that it is ready by the time I get home. She didn't tell me that she's cooking. Nothing. Yeah, and it happens often. I walk in and she's like, "Oh, dinner's done." I was like, "How'd you know?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I saw that you're about 20 minutes away."
I'm dying. So my other example, Jace, I swear to God, again, same thing. I was like, my husband and I both worked in Boston at different points. Sometimes it's 45 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. I would want to know approximately when he'd be home without bugging someone who's in bumper to bumper traffic. Brittany, your face kills me when we talk about this because you're like, absolutely not. I'm very independent. I'll own what I do. If he sees me doing something I shouldn't be doing, then
It's not even that I'm doing anything I shouldn't be doing. It is the principle. Like, I just...
Standing on principle.
I don't even have an Apple tag on my dog's collar. Like, I know where my dog is, but like, I don't need to know if my dog is like in the yard. Like, and that's like my person. Okay, it's my dog, but like, it's my baby. Like, that's fine. You go do you. And I would feel weird having someone be like, she's at Taco Bell again.
Why is your partner so judgy? I feel like this is like, very.
You can't have a
judgy. That
you can't have a judgy partner.
No, and by the way, if my husband does say something like that, I'm like, excuse you, and then he's like, just kidding. So
I'm also very independent too, though. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I do what I want, but I'm also like,
that's what he wants.
I do, right? and I'll accept the consequences of that, right? But the reason I've been married going on 20 years is because like we've had this, it's a partnership, right? It's like, hey, you make my life easier. Sometimes
I wouldn't go that far. I was going to say, like, I wouldn't say that in my way, if I'm being very honest. It makes it interesting.
No, touche.
I like how this is pivoted from like things you shouldn't do on social media to reasons Brittany's single.
Interpret it how you will. But no, I mean, listen, I think when you have a relationship, you need to both just be on the same page about where you lie on these things. Yeah. And I know people who have joint bank accounts, separate bank accounts, joint things, separate things. I know people who basically live as individuals, but are married and are very happy, and people who aren't, who are completely intertwined. And I say that as someone who like, I need some breathing space, but I think it makes sense for the two of you. It makes sense, right?
I will say I dated someone and they shared their location with me, and it was incredibly no, like they had an ongoing like shared location, and it was convenient because I was like, oh, you're going biking for the day. I know what time you'll be back. I shouldn't lock this door. Maybe I'll stay up and wait for you. I get the convenience aspect.
Just standing on principle anyway.
Yeah, but if someone's cooking for me, just call me because like maybe I don't even want to eat that. I don't know.
Will you pick up if someone calls you? Or are you a no-call
If it's somebody
person?
I know, if I don't know the number, hell no. Yeah. If someone calls me, I'm like, they actually need to talk. People know to text me by default. If it's a
me.
call,
don't call
I'll
me.
answer.
Just
But
text me.
Thank you.
I don't care either way. I honestly, voice note me, text me. I don't care. I really don't care. Whatever way you want to communicate with me, I'll meet you where you're at the end of the day.
I think the key though is just communicate. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
100%.
Regardless of how you want to do it, whether you follow each other or not, like just be on the same page. Communicate what your expectations are. Unspoken expectations are a nightmare for everybody.
Yeah.
And so just be real about what you want. Right.
Agreed.
And you can find a way to work within that space.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to clip part of this and like add it to my dating profile and just be like, I'm not sharing my location with you ever. That's a deal breaker.
You should 100% put that in there. It'll weed out some of the bad apples. Several episodes ago, we talked about things about couples that actually like really make us cringe. One of which was shared social media. Jace, how do you feel about shared social media?
It's weird. You know,
right?
You know, and maybe there are legitimate reasons, but usually when I see it, it's because there was a breakdown in trust somewhere, and it just tells 100%. Me like something happened here, and y'all don't trust each other. But to that point, I don't want to like put everybody in the same bucket, right? Because I know that you know sometimes one partner doesn't like social media, doesn't want to have it, and the other partner is like, well, your friends want to talk to you, so they'll just kind of add them into their profile. Right.
That's right to me.
I've seen that happen, but 99% of the time it's the other scenario. So I'm always like, awkward, you know?
Yeah. My favorite, I say this as like a very evil person. My favorite is when it's joint and the next thing you know, John is like departing the social media, but Barbara is still there. And it's like, okay, well, I know you might not want us to make any, I don't know, assumptions based on that, but that's
they
know.
Because I've also seen it where they just like try to abandon the joint account and they start posting more from their personal. And I'm like, which goes back to kind of this whole concept of what do you post online? Like, I can find out everything about you. I will find out everything about your family in record time. Like, there are grade A creeps in the world, and I feel like Jace and I are formally trained in being grade A creeps because it is in line with what we do for work.
Put that on your byline in LinkedIn. Grade A creep.
So
formally trained.
My first job in this space, I made a joke during my first interview where I forgot how I phrased it. They're like, oh, why do you want to join this team? Like, it's a lot of investigative work. Like, how good are you with the internet? I'm like, well, it's time I actually get paid to lurk someone other than my ex-boyfriend. So, like, let's do it.
That person was like, sold. Yes.
He was.
I'm going to drop some creepy info out there to that same point.
Please do.
I'm a private investigator. I have a private investigative agency. And so I have access to tools that make it so much easier to locate and find people. But let me tell you, before I spend the money on those tools, I usually do a free search and I usually get the majority of the information that I'm looking for. There is a website out there, and
it's terrifying. Don't say it.
All you creepers that are out there, I'm going to, because it's free. It's out there. And I think like people should be aware and look up yourself and just see how creepy it is of a footprint that you leave. But there are websites out there, and there's many, but one that I use is called truepeoplesearch.com. It is absolutely insane how not only can I find your address, but where you lived at before, your known phone numbers. And then from there, I can start to build a profile. And I use that as my base to usually start my investigative work. Sometimes I don't even need to go into the private databases. I can find out the majority of information that I need about you from a free website, right? So all that to say, you leave a digital footprint. And it's
sure.
You have to be extremely intentional to really monitor what you're outputting, and what I call digital exhaust, right? It's things like ordering pizza and not really thinking about giving your name and your address to a pizza company could ever affect you in any way. No, if you're a celebrity, if you're high profile and you want to keep your address hidden, that's one of the quickest ways for that information to be sold to a third party. And all of a sudden your information is out there just from ordering pizza, right? Doesn't seem like something that could be a big deal, but it is.
Yeah. To that point, I once heard a woman say, and I've remembered this ever since, when she ordered from DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever, she put her name down as a man's name because you don't know who's delivering your food, right? At the end of the day, let's be serious. And I've had some, and I know Brittany has also had some sketchy experiences with delivery in the past, to the point where I've actually had to call the police before with one of those incidents. And the reality is, if they think that a man is the one on the other side, it's not a complete like safeguard, but it is a little bit more of a deterrent than Brittany, Doria, like with a picture, something like that. Just, again, it's unfortunate because I am a very strong-willed, independent woman, but at the end of the day, I'm also very mindful of how vulnerable I am in some ways, and I don't think that it's wrong to take the right measures to protect myself.
Oh, you absolutely should protect yourself. I mean, I had a DoorDash driver eat the filling from one of my tacos. That is just, it's so gross. It's so weird. Thankfully, I just, oh my God, I have to find the photos if I can find the photo. Yeah, I ordered 2 tacos and one of the tacos was fine. The other one clearly had like the meat residue was probably what I'd call it. I just removed, like it was gone. That was awful. Yeah. The creepy thing about sites like True People Finder or True People Search is they pull from public databases. So all of that information is public record. And even if you delete yourself from those things, because you can request to have your information removed, anytime a public database is updated, that information can be added back, which is absolutely terrifying. There's companies like Delete Me that will go through and crawl all of this and constantly remove it. It is a small price to pay to keep your privacy. Like I 100% recommend doing that. Because when you think about DoorDash separately, kind of going back to that, I think the hardest part of this work in trust and safety, right, isn't looking at someone's background check or looking at whether or not they've committed a crime before. Most of the really bad things that happen are crimes of opportunity, right? And you can't predict human behavior. And so people might not have had that opportunity to commit a terrible crime or do something pretty egregious previously, and when they're in the right mindset with the right opportunity, they're going to take it. And so you can't put people through any kind of screening that's going to predict the outcome of what they may or may not do, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so when you think about 2 of the most vulnerable groups, I think about children and I think about elderly individuals, right? They are very vulnerable to scams, to acts of violence, things like that. Jace, I don't know if you feel this way, but back when my kids were younger, it felt so difficult to keep up with the technology that was coming out, with the apps, with the gaming platforms that were coming out, the communication platforms that were really being marketed towards children. Roblox, I think, is one of the biggest ones to have received a lot of spotlight on just how unsafe it is for children. And I really felt like I was scrambling all the time to find ways not to just see, like, again, logging into a kid's account, cool, fine, whatever, you can delete stuff, right? And yeah, there's a digital footprint somewhere, but the reality is what you want as a parent is real-time monitoring, and you want to be able to actually see at a pretty minute, like, detail level what's going on. And it's only been recently that I've seen some more, I don't know, beefy, comprehensive platforms and apps kind of come out. Bark is one of them. So I recently started using them in our family. It came recommended to us by a professional. And even that, like, I think working in tech, you can see the gaps, right? You're like, oh, well, why can't I see this? And why is this lagging? And oh, there's like a loophole here. As soon as I considered apps, the first thing I did, and I recommend every parent does this if you're considering anything for your children, Google it. See what the Reddit threads say about these things, not just from a parent perspective, but from a child trying to get around it perspective. Because I guarantee you, there are 50 freaking threads about how to get around all of the ways that you are monitoring your children. Easy.
You bring up a great point.
They are so clever and so smart.
I think about, like, not only because I did that, right? I think about, like, when I was homeschooled and I used to try to figure out every way around the platform. I was a kid. No judging. We listen. We don't judge. But
we all judge, but we accept it from each other. We do nothing but judge here.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, you've judged me this entire time. It's fine.
I mean,
no judging.
You give me so much to judge.
I'm so judgeable. Not abductable. I'm judgeable.
Judgeable.
Judgeable. But to this point, like, there's so many ways around everything, really. Even now, I think about it, and I'm not going to call out a brand or anything like that, but I think about, even as a private investigator, when I need to get into a gated community, I go online to figure out ways to bypass your security system. And and that's creepy to hear, but I can program my own codes into certain systems at gates that you all live in, right? And it doesn't seem possible, but no, all I have to do is jump on Reddit, do a quick little search.
Yep.
I can get a tutorial video on how to bypass anything, right? And the same with these apps that are out there. If I want to bypass a security feature, I want to figure out how to stretch the limits of what I'm allowed to do. Somebody already probably figured it out. They put it on Reddit, and they're going to give you instructions on how to do it. So get ahead of it. Be the one who's searching that, right? Know the vulnerabilities that are out there for your children, for yourself, for the people around you.
Yeah. Be more motivated than your child, because guess what? Your child has nothing but time and energy to devote to getting around all the shit that you were putting in place. So if you do not approach it with the same energy, the same vibe, that child's going to be 10 steps ahead of you. And let's be serious, we're not that old. And yet, compared to my children, I feel ancient when it comes to all this stuff because they grew up with it as a part of their daily life. We are struggling to keep up with it. Even if we work in the industry, they intuitively understand it because it's been like a day one thing for them.
Yeah.
It's wild. Actually, you know who has a really good tip for getting into gated communities without needing any tech behind them? Brittany. Oh. I don't know, Jace, if you listened to the episode where she talked about, so you know what Real Housewives is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brittany once shared a story about her Coda de Casa goals to become a Real Housewife of the OC, and she managed to get into a gated community by matching with someone on a dating app who happened to be a security guard. So it's not just tech that will let down security and privacy, it is people, which actually
social engineering.
100%.
Social engineering, absolutely.
Which is another reason why when you are with someone and also your family, like if they post pictures of you or your children, even if you are being insanely careful, there's another in, right? Like what if your sister is posting on her thing, you're in the background, the restaurant name is right there, and it's not that hard to figure out who follows who, right? It's listed on every social media app. We all triangulate people. Let's be serious. We all do some creeping now and again. It's not just you, it's your circle too.
I think that brings up a couple things, and I'll get to the second point, which is absolutely terrifying. And it's another website that is just, it scares me. It's terrifying in this day and age. I had posted a photo. I had like all on Instagram, whatever, everything was fine. And a not so great person stole one of my photos, created a separate Instagram account, pretended that it was an OnlyFans account, followed every single person on my friends list and messaged them. I had people reaching out being like, no shade if this is you, but just wanted to confirm. And it was absolutely terrifying because they were posting under this guise of click this link, sign up, as if it was me saying, please come look at my photos. And to the people that actually followed, I see you. That was not supportive. That was creepy. The account got taken down, thankfully, because I knew someone at Instagram.
Right.
But it's just one of those things where people will pretend to be you. They will try to take advantage of the people that know you. And it's terrifying. And there's this site. Have you heard of Pimeyes? P-I-M. Yeah. P-I-M-E-Y-E-S. It is terrifying. Google it. If you upload a photo, it will take that photo and scan the entire internet, essentially looking for any photo of you to be able to trace back to you. And it's not even just a picture that you posted on Facebook 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It is you in the background of any photo that might exist anywhere on the internet. It is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
They can use that to pull up information about who you are. There's some creepy videos of people figuring out that somebody was a professor, being able to socially engineer them and find out their entire history.
Yeah.
It is freaky what is out there.
Yeah. I once had someone spoof our entire account, going back to when we were influencing, our entire account, and pose as us and then reach out to people and brands. And we caught it really quickly. But even that, getting it taken down actually took so much work at that point. It is not a quick, hey, this is me, take it down. You actually, sometimes you can't even get it taken down. I know so many people who have fake accounts
out there. Teams don't have time.
100%. Like that's
the bandwidth isn't there.
Exactly.
It's not a priority.
Exactly. So just know all of that content, like I'm going to be honest, my stuff is locked down and private because of stuff like that now. And I've thought multiple times about being public again on one account. And every time I come back to the same thing, which is one, I like the community I've built there. It's very curated. And two, I don't want to live that life again where someone, takes content that is very, very innocent, very dear to me and does something insidious with it. But people do, right? Give them an opportunity.
It's true.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm curious, Jace, with your spouse, do you have to hit her up on, on the occasion and be like, hey, that's actually making you super vulnerable, or someone's going to figure that out? Or is she just so attuned to it now through osmosis from being in your orbit that it's like second nature to her?
I think it's that the latter, right? Because I think before, she would post the same day. She would post where she was at. While we're at dinner, she's posting. But after being in this circle and hearing me constantly have conversations about the vulnerabilities, I would say she's somewhat of a pro herself, even at this point. And she's very mindful and intentional about what she's putting out there and when she's putting it out there, right? Which I think is very important. So I think like there's a product of, because I've been doing this for so long, she's more aware. And what's interesting, she had said something the other day, which I find very intriguing. She says, like, whenever she's out with me, she puts her guards down because she knows that I'm literally scanning every face around me. I'm watching. I'm very mindful. And it's one of like the few times where she can kind of just relax because she knows, hey, it doesn't have to just be on her. She's with somebody else who's also thinking about that all the time. But she also said to that same point, when she's by herself, she's extra mindful. She's paying far more attention. She's on guard and doesn't feel like she can fully rest at that period, right? Because
100%.
she has to take that on as by herself. Which Brittany, I know you're not dating someone, or you're not married, you're not walking with somebody every other day.
Don't out Brittany's relationship status, Jace.
Isn't that what this entire call's been about?
I mean, you outed yourself.
Wait, are we not talking about? I thought this whole thing was about Brittany. I'm so confused. I'm just kidding.
100%. Brittany's dating life.
But no, to that same point, Brittany is probably one of the more intentional females that
Savvy.
I know. Yeah, and just because like you're not only independent, but like you've taken on this independence of making sure that you're protected by yourself. You're not relying on other people to do that, and so you're more in tune and probably far more ahead than other friends that I have who not even really thought about these things, haven't worked in this industry, haven't had to experience some of the stuff that we've experienced, we've seen other people experience. And so I think there's an advantage that we've been working in this for such a long time. But then I think about the people who don't have people to give them great advice, who don't do this for a living, and they're just out there and vulnerable and don't realize the vulnerabilities that are around them and how they contribute to that on their own.
Yeah. I think Brittany's insight is really good because as a married person, you do kind of get into a complacent place where you're like, oh, my spouse, my whatever, my life is very whatever. But you forget that you're still an individual. Your spouse is not, unless you're on lockdown, always going to be there. And so these are things that you need to apply to yourself as well. Married, single, in a pod of people, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you need to protect yourself as well and take ownership of that. So I'm curious, what else, Brittany, would you recommend that people do, especially if they are single? Because I feel like there's a little added layer of vulnerability there, especially as a woman or, again, like a more vulnerable class of people. What do you think people should do that they're not doing?
Yeah. For the record, I don't live alone. So it's not just me living in my house.
No one thinks.
I'm like, that's the first thing. I'm like, well, first of all, have a room. Kidding.
Have a squad like at this.
Oh no, I know every I'm stacked, but also I know every one of my neighbors. Like, I think that's a huge thing that people.
Yeah,
it's not common to know your neighbors these days, but like me and one of my neighbors is
tight.
We get sassy, and I know who every other one of my neighbors is. To where I had my cousin's house sitting for me at one point, and my neighbor was like, "Who are those two people in your house?" I'm like, "I know they're chill." And I think that's a big one. My block is also very, very nosy. Good. And I love that. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I think I've messaged you, Doria, a few times. Like, there's a random truck. If I go missing, here's the van. Here's the license plate. Like, a photo of said truck. I'm like, this guy's been out there on the phone. I don't trust it. And he's fixing a light. But I'm like, I don't care. You don't belong here. That light was fine yesterday. Yeah. What's going on here? Trust no one.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of part of it is, where are you most vulnerable? Because I think when people think about even being home, like, oh, I have 7 deadbolts on my door.
Yeah.
What is the simplest point of it? Break a window. Like, people can still get in. Like, that door is not going to keep you safe if you're worried about people. Yeah. What do you have to keep yourself safe? What are your resources? But even when I think about the internet and dating, like, know who you're going out with. Make sure people know where you're going, who you're going with. Those are incredibly important. Don't post social media videos in real time, because even outside of the personal risk, like I can't tell you how many times someone's posted something and I've clicked the link to figure out where they are. Like, I want to go to that restaurant. That looks really cool. Oh, they're in Vegas. They must be in Vegas this weekend. I wonder who's watching their dog. Is their partner home? Oh, no, the partner's actually out at lunch. Their dog isn't. Oh, their dog's at a dog. Oh, they're not home. And that's been part of people's homes being broken into and burglarized. And I feel like that's something you hear about. But it's also just, who knows where you are? I think my fear is always just, I'm going to die alone in my house one day and no one's going to find me for a month. And
your Aura ring will definitely know.
No, this thing will absolutely. And my watch, like I fell down my stairs once, just like tripped, innocent fall. And it was like, should I call the cops? Should I call your parents? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And I think that's the other part of it too, is like having devices that are tracking me at all times can be creepy. Be mindful of your data, obviously. Read privacy policies. But it's just being aware and being looped in. Like I said, if you're going out with people, Google their phone number. Figure out who they are. There's apps that will let you do background checks and all of these other things if you want to go that route. Maybe probably get their last name if you're not as well versed in all of this.
100% for the average
people
person, right?
Like, yeah, but people can lie. Like I think about the Tinder swindler, right? Like people can create these personas. I can make up a last name. No one's going to find me. But have one piece of credible information about somebody at least. Get a breadcrumb. Yeah. Take a screenshot. Share that with your friends. And if you get
a cookie,
there,
if you will.
A cookie. Yeah, give your friends a cookie. But also, if you get there and this person is not the person you say they are, one thing I've done, and I have no shame in admitting this, I'll wait in my car until I see that person go in. I'll take a picture of their license plate and the car and send it to friends. So if I go missing, that's the last car I was seen with. That's what they got out of. It's just, you can never be too safe. I'm also very paranoid, but also like,
I think
it's my life. Thing.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. I think in this day and age, you have to be. I think hypervigilance is actually essential now just because of the, I don't even know how to say it. It's not even just physical proximity, right? It's digital proximity too. And it is so small now. Someone can access you without even being in the same country as you. Yeah. So that hypervigilance is kind of required at this point because there's so many access points and, so many points of weakness. But I think that one of the things that'll be interesting to me is as these kids get older, they have such large digital footprints in comparison to us, right? Like ours are large now because we're in tech and we're interacting with all these things and some of it's essential and some of it's not, whatever. But these kids, some of them have had digital footprints since like day one. Like those YouTube kids streaming, videos that they're watching, you are building a profile of your child, of their behavior, of activity. What is that going to look like when, say, someone who is Gen Alpha hits their 30s and 40s? What is that going to look like in comparison to ours? That's scary to me.
I'll tell you, scary because you made a great point, right? I'll be 40 this year, so I'm outing my age here. So you think that I wouldn't have so much of a digital footprint from my younger years, right? In my line of work, we run what we call a comprehensive report, and that essentially shows everything about a person, right? Not only every civil, criminal, whatever offense that's out there, anywhere you've lived, any phone number you've ever had. But when I ran myself, I had to laugh because I found the usernames that I used on AOL Instant Messenger.
That I had
forgot about. R.I.P. That I had hopefully forgotten. And no, I was like, oh no. Wow,
Jace Bad Boy 43.
It was very correct. It was awful. I don't even want to, I'm not even going to put it out there because it was just, I was like, no. But then to that same point, it also showed me my old email address from Web TV, which was something that was when I was a child.
Wow.
Goodness.
Right. And that. So you can only admit, you forgot about, I did too until I saw, I was like, no way. How?
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think about this new generation, their footprint is going to be that much more significant, right? Everything has been digital, whereas only part of my life has been digital, and it's still all out there. I can still find every little bit of it. The other thing I want to call out, Brittany, great habit of taking license plates, right? So one thing I can also do, I can run, and again, I'm licensed to do this, so it's a little less creepy, but the fact that this information is correct, a disclaimer, right? I can take a license plate, I can run that plate, it'll show me everything about who it's registered to. Not only that, though, I can run it through a database to track everywhere that license plate has been identified. So anytime a tow truck has passed it, I can see that you've been at this apartment complex 3 or 4 times. It's great when I'm trying to locate somebody for lawful reasons. But, to that same point, having something like a license plate would be helpful if Brittany went missing for some reason, right? I can say, this is the last person that she was with, right? This is the last time that this vehicle has been located. And so leaving those intentional crumbs out there is very smart, right? You want to be careful about leaving those unintentional crumbs, but those intentional ones can be a matter of life or death for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I'm very petty. I also take pictures of license plates of cars that park close to me so that if you dig my car, I can 10,000%. Because I have had someone, brand new car, I'm not kidding you, 3 days off the lot, smash the side of my car.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's just me.
It's being proactive if you think about it.
I mean, be on the offense always, right?
Well, that's kind of the scary thing, though, is I have my ways of keeping myself safe. Like, I know what I typically do, and there's some other things I obviously am not going to share if anyone wants to know them. And I do my research and you're not creepy. I'm happy to share them with you. But the other side of it is I can break every single rule that I have built. Like, there are ways around this, which is why it's kind of like, if I don't have A, okay, do I have B? Do I have C? If I have none of the above, that is not a safe situation. Because like I said, I can lie about my last name. I can use Google Voice as my phone number. Like the green bubbles.
We talked about this previously too.
But it's a safety measure because I can't tell what type of phone you're masking. I mean, I technically could figure it out if I really put in the work, but that's also a safety risk if I don't know enough about you, right? And it's those little tiny things that I feel like over the years we've been trained to notice and kind of pick up on. And I worked in an offline user safety space for a while, and it is absolutely terrifying because working in the online space, it's creepy. But when you see it in the real world and how that kind of plays out is absolutely terrifying. I think I find comfort when I think about things like dating apps or certain things is not just knowing what I know about someone or the fact that I might have friends that work at this company that I hope would prioritize like helping to find me, even though there's very specific procedures for law enforcement requests and subpoenas.
Right.
But I also know what data they have on the other person because I know what data I have on people with whatever platform I'm at. And some of that stuff is really helpful. And I know what can be faked. I know what can be forged. I know a lot of the vendors kind of in this space that do a lot of this back end stuff. I'm sure, Jace, you know a lot of these people as well, and they do fantastic work. So there are ways so I feel relatively safe, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing my due diligence, right? Because like I said before, a lot of bad things that happen are from opportunity. And if you're on social media posting where you're at, you're not home, you're on vacation. Like, I think one of the biggest risks people don't realize isn't even your house. It's if you're on vacation at an all-inclusive resort somewhere and you tag the resort, people will troll the location on Instagram to figure out who's there, who's getting wasted every night, who exists. They will find you. And they'll know that you're partying and the last 3 nights you've been blackout drunk till 2 a.m, you're an easy target, right? Like, what are the safety measures that people are doing that seem harmless, but the creeps are going to creep?
Absolutely.
So this is a whole rabbit hole, and I'm not going to really just jump into this rabbit hole because it can go forever. The same concept, though. We all know that there's a very high-profile case going with the former CEO of United Healthcare, who is unfortunately, well, I think most people would say unfortunately. I know it's a pretty mixed crowd on how people feel about this whole scenario. Very political, right? But to the same point, how did somebody figure out where somebody else was going to be, right? A conference. What's happening when you're going to a conference? A lot of times speakers are pre-released, right? You know who's going to a conference, right? And so if I know you're going to be somewhere, I can show up a week ahead of you. I can figure out what time you're walking from your hotel. I can figure out, I can develop a whole plan based on very little information that's being out there publicly, right?
Yeah.
And I say that because you have to wonder, and I'm sure a lot of this will start to come out as the trial starts to pick up, but you have to wonder how somebody who does not have a background in this was able to find, locate, if he's guilty, right? Don't get me wrong, but no matter who did this, how did you find, locate, know where someone was going to be at a specific time, plan your exit route, right? There was a lot of meticulous planning that went into that. And it is because of what's being put out there that allows you to be able to make these plans. And yes, you're more high profile as a CEO of a huge company, but even someone like you or I who are not high profile have to be very mindful about, hey, I'm speaking at this event, right? How many times have we posted on LinkedIn, hey, I'm speaking at this event coming up here. I just told somebody where I'm going to be and at what time I'm going to be there, right?
Yeah. Or think about company profiles. Like, if you have a high enough title in a company, people are going to assume you make a certain living, right? And that's accessible. That's public and sometimes promoted information. I'm curious. So the idea of stranger danger, we laugh about it now as like millennials, zennials, Gen X, right?
It's real.
It's real, but it's changed because when we were younger, a stranger was anyone that was not known to you and your parents, right? It was an unknown person. But all we do all day long is interact with actual strangers online. And so the concept of who you know has changed. And I've talked with my kids, Jace, I don't know if you've talked with your kiddo about this, but they think they know. They really genuinely think. I had a child, my oldest spicy child, tell me they could tell whether or not someone was actually Gen Z or not. And I was like, buddy, the way you all put your lives online, I could imitate you watching 10 minutes of your content. Correct. You literally use a very specific vernacular. You have a very specific mannerism. And to emulate that is not that hard because their whole lives are online. There's no mystery about them, but they think they know someone from speaking with them. It's wild to me.
I think we were all like that, you know? We all were too.
I didn't think I knew strangers though. Like I had serious stranger danger.
Yeah. It's a different world now.
I knew people online, right?
Oh, I did not think that. I was always scared.
Jace, have you been to the conference in Dallas?
The Crimes Against Children conference?
Crimes Against Children conference. I feel like
many years.
So many. Yeah. So there's a conference in Dallas. I'm pretty sure it's still in Dallas. And it is all about crimes against children. And it's heartbreaking. I'm not going to go into details about what you hear. But one of the things that comes up pretty often is how these bad actors and terrible humans are able to emulate being a young person. 100%. And these people have absolutely no idea. And for there to be a conference that has full-on sessions around this, I wish people understood that. Because we were all know-it-alls. Like, I thought I knew everyone back then. I can guarantee you I knew creepers when I was 14 with my little ASL talking to people who I'm like, you're also 15? Skater Boy 23149 from Minneapolis? Like, I have no doubt. Yeah, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Skater Boy was like a 27-year-old creep, but like,
for sure,
we'll never know. But I thought I knew.
For sure. The Crimes Against Children conference is heavy. And one of the things that I really appreciated though is that you actually have survivors who have been abducted, who have endured lots of abuse, who are up here saying like, "Yo, here's what I went through, and here's what happened to me, and I've survived." Right, and I can tell you, like, I'm not a very emotional person, but it's very hard to walk out of those rooms without having tears in your eyes to see like the real life impact of what a digital conversation could then lead to, right?
Yeah.
Or someone who is a trusted relative or somebody that, you know, your family thought they knew can end up in this scenario that's life or death. And to that whole same point, right? Quick story. We had a case at a platform that I worked in where a image was uploaded. A child was being abused. And the image that was uploaded ended up being the reason why we were able to reach out to Austria law enforcement and this child to be rescued and the person to be arrested. It was because photos leave metadata. And a lot of people don't realize that. But this metadata was able to tell us exactly where this child was. Also, the person taking a photo at their job, which they worked at a school, helped us figure out that the school and the person's home were within a certain vicinity of each other, right? To that same point, though, when a friend sends me a photo, I don't know if you know this, but if they send you a photo on, let's say you have an iPhone, if you swipe up on that photo, it's going to show you a map at exactly where that photo was taken. I create my friends out and I was like, oh, are you having a good time at this place? And they're like, whoa, how do you know that? You are sending your location to people when you are sending a photo. The way around that, you can screenshot that photo and then send that screenshot. But if you're sending the actual original photo, you are sending the metadata of that photo. So be aware.
Yeah. Jace, I'm sure you know this, but if there is a parent who thinks that their child is potentially being in any way, shape, or form groomed or coerced by someone, you can actually take their phone without the passcode to the police and tell them what you suspect is going on, and they will actually take that phone and they will break into it. I became aware of that in the last year. I was not aware of that. That is actually something that parents can do because sometimes you do not have a child who's willing to participate in their safety, and that's just a fact. And so sometimes you have to take, matters in your own hands. I thankfully have not had to, but I became aware of that fact. And I was like, that is something that other parents need to know because this does happen. And sometimes you feel helpless in the moment and you suspect and you see the flags and you don't know what to do. act. If I can say anything to other parents, just act when you think something is starting to go wrong. Even if it feels extreme, better to be wrong in one way than another.
And to that point, most law enforcement agencies have an ICAC team. And if you haven't heard that term before, it's Internet Crimes Against Children. Most of your departments are going to have a team that specializes in these internet crimes. And so it's not the first time that they're going to have seen someone bring a phone and say, hey, I think my child is being groomed, right? What they do is they set up the ability to text as that person and kind of keep that conversation going to get the evidence that is needed to prosecute these criminals, right? So trust your law enforcement agencies when you can't get the information that you're suspecting. If you're feeling something, you have a gut feeling, react on that. The worst thing you could do is be wrong and say, whew, I accidentally kept my kid safe and nothing was happening, right? At the extreme, you can find out that something was happening and you just saved a life, not maybe just of your child, but of someone else's child, or you've heard your child say something about a friend, right? Be involved. Ask those questions. I think it's very important.
Yeah. Just to lighten the mood a little bit, I'm curious. So we've all done dumb things, right? Jace, I'm curious, what is a dumb thing you did as a kid that absolutely put you at risk? And you're like, wow, the fact I lived through that, like, thank goodness. But now it's a funny story, but actually not that funny, but maybe kind of funny.
I think just in general, it was a different world. I was much more trusting. I didn't have the internet to tell me about how bad things were. And so, telling my parents, we didn't have cell phones back then. If I wanted to call my parents, I would find a payphone, if anyone knows what that is. And I didn't have the quarter, so I would dial 1-800-COLLECT, and then where it asked you for your name, it's like, I'm going to this person's house, and then I'd hang up really quick. Right?
Oh, I remember that.
People of our generation know, okay?
100%.
And so I would go to places where I didn't know people's parents at all, and they would be using drugs, they would be drinking alcohol. I would think it was the coolest thing to be at a friend's house whose parents let them drink. Little did I know that was a very unsafe environment for me.
Yeah.
And things that I didn't realize until I got older, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I would have ever done that. But then I think about that with my own my child's going to be 21 this year, but when he was a teenager and he was going to people's houses and I was like, oh, their parents let them smoke weed, their parents let them drink alcohol. That's a concern for me. Or
100%.
even things like parents have a gun in their house, right?
Yes.
Right. Anytime somebody tells me, hey, their parent is going to be home, that doesn't make me feel more comfortable. It actually is more concerning for me because the fact that I know that I've been able to go to people's homes and their parents allowed them to smoke, allowed them to drink, allowed them to use drugs does not make me any more comfortable when my child says, hey, it's okay, their parents are going to be there, right? How many times have there been an accidental shooting because a parent didn't secure their firearm in the correct way? Being a parent does not make you responsible, right? It is our due diligence to make sure that those parents are the right people that you want your children around. I found myself in very bad scenarios growing up that, if I ever thought about my child being there, I'd be petrified, right? The things that I was allowed to see in other people's homes. And so a very different age now because a lot of it's available digitally, but even when there was no digital footprint, the amount of things that you could have happen that were negative for you and for me, I guess, were very apparent now that I'm older and now that I look back in retrospect.
Yeah, definitely. Brittany, what about you? I know we've talked about it a little bit, but what's just kind of a funny anecdotal story that you haven't shared where you look back and you're like, wow, that was unsafe?
So my life was very lived online. When I was like from 8th grade and up, I started building websites, like building blogs, all of that stuff. And I was part of a really fun community. I was also very much in chat rooms when I was younger. So like I have been around the block a few times. Chat rooms were a thing, right? I had an internet boyfriend for a while. And at one point, I mean, we all had internet boyfriends. It's fine.
I did not.
But
did not. Jace, did you have an internet boyfriend?
I had an internet girlfriend.
But his name was Nick, NIQ. And we met because we were, oh my God, this is so embarrassing and so awkward to admit. NIQ. This is handle. Because we were both part of a we were part of a little hacker community.
Okay.
Which seems innocent. Like, was great. Like, I was very into things that were very technical, which is why I get worked up when people talk about coding their MySpace layouts. I'm like, I was literally breaking into people's accounts for funsies. We're not getting into that. And also, I didn't admit to doing any of that ever. So like, don't arrest me. Yeah. So Nick, we were talking all day. He was my boyfriend. I think I said I was 13. I was like 12. He was 14. That 1 year, it was a teenager versus a non-teenager, right?
100%. Yeah.
He was 14 or 15. He used big words. I was impressed. And then one day Nick disappeared. And he came back and I was like, I think I'd given him my phone number and he like called me, but then he didn't call me. And I was like, he stopped calling me. That's weird. Sorry, Mom. He disappeared for a while and he came back online. I saw his screen name. I was like, where have you been? I missed you. Like, how are you? And he was like, sorry, I went to juvie for a little while. And I was
Drop that fact.
Oh, that's cool. It's like, oh, you must be did you go for like some kind of hacking situation? He's like, yeah, that's exactly why I went. And then I stabbed. Oh my God, I have a habit. Oh my God.
Oh,
I'm realizing
Brittany. Brittany, I think we have unearthed a little bit of a pattern here. Put a pin in that for therapy.
Brittany, how long has this been going on?
Well, we know it at least went on from 12 to about 16. So
Oh my God. But oh my God, I didn't realize it was that bad. Like, I remember he went away, but I thought he said he went to juvie, and I was like, oh, did he really go to juvie? Was he like a creeper who was like under investigation? I'm like, oh no, but then he said he stabbed someone. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
As one does.
Yeah, I was like, so, I mean, he got out eventually, so it might have been like a baby stab. I don't know.
I hope that's on his little rap sheet. Baby stab.
Well, he eventually disappeared again, and I never talked to him again. So I'm like, did he get killed? Like, what happened to my boyfriend? So like, I don't know. So
an IQ.
Yeah. So I was chatting with someone who potentially stabbed someone, or was a potential creeper, or at the very least was like a pretty decent hacker.
All the above. D.
Doria.
Sorry, my mom listens to this, and now I'm afraid.
What about me? So I was very, very concerned for my safety for a number of reasons when I was younger. And so I was careful up to a point. And then I don't know, like my very rebellious side really kind of took over, I would say, at the end of middle school. And
what's your phrase? Strategically rebellious?
Strategically rebellious, 100%. Yes, this is actually that, Brittany, I live what I preach. So this started in 8th grade. This is bad. My children better never listen to this podcast. So I found ways to skip parts of the day at school and go off property starting in 8th grade, because back then we didn't have security systems and we didn't have automatic locks. And so those buildings, I mean, I know, Brittany, I'm a little bit older, but we had none of that. And so, this was like a new school building. So I was able to find a way out where there were no teachers and classes going through, with some friends, go out to a field like a mile away, do dumb fuckery, and then come back and never get detected under the guise of taking some footage for a class that we had. And I did not stop there. I continued that all through high school. I would literally show up sometimes for homeroom and then find a way out of the building and come back at the end of the day, or not come back at the end of the day. And granted, my grades were really good, so no one ever caught on. It just looked like I had a lot of absences. And I had some medical problems, so they were like, meh. No one knew where I was. And back then, again, Jace, no cell phones, right? So you're talking like no digital footprint as to where I was, no way to track me. And only the person that I was with, or the people I was with, knew where we were going and what we were doing. So unsafe.
That's terrible. I also never ditched school, like, ever. So even hearing that, I was like,
can I tell you? I had teachers, like, they had like bolos out for me at school. They're like, if you see her, bring her back to my class. And I wouldn't even do anything bad. I'd just be like, I don't feel like going to class. Like, all my friends are in study. I'm going to go to study. And they'd be like searching the whole school for me. Sometimes I'd be like, you want to like not be here for half the day?
I almost felt bad for my child when he was in high school, because I always tracked him and found out when he was doing those things, because I got away with all of that, as you know, like you did. But you know, I remember looking one time at lunch and he was at Target. I'm like, what the heck is this freaking kid doing at Target?
Target.
You know what I mean?
Getting
like,
his Starbucks, doing a little shopping.
Yeah.
100%. And then, you know, but then I would think about it and just be like, you know what? I did far worse at that age. I barely ever went to class. I always skipped. I had my friends call and pretend to be my mom.
The notes.
Absences.
Have your friend with like the perfect penmanship.
100%.
Your parents
100%. So when I think about that, you know, and I think about us as kids, right? And we had less resources available.
For sure.
Right. So, I think we've all done some dumb stuff, and I think that's
absolutely
part of growing up. But you know, with that being said, it makes you just more mindful when you have your own children, your own nieces, your own nephews, people that you really care about, because you're like, I know what I was able to do, and I want to prevent you from trying to go through some of these things. But you know, very similar to, you know, you tell a child that something's hot and then they don't know until they actually touch it themselves. You realize that no matter what you arm them with, try to protect them, they're ultimately going to do what they want to do. And so I find it very important that you try everything in your power to try to help them move down the right path, but knowing that they're going to fuck up, right? It's inevitable. For sure. But have you built the right relationship and communication with them to where they can trust and say, hey, I messed up, right? And you can help them get back on their feet. And so a lot of times just keeping those open communication with somebody, it's going to be extremely important when, you know, technology is going to fail you. People are ultimately going to fail you regardless of what's out there. Are you able to have those conversations to let them know, hey, I still support you. I'm still here for you. Ultimately, I care about you, not that you did something good or bad, right?
Right. I agree. I think that's actually the perfect note to wrap up on. Jace, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so fun to chat with you. And also the elements that you've brought to light, I think, are really important. I think it's given listeners a lot to think about and also more insight into some of this stuff too. So thank you very much for celebrating our 10th episode with us.
Thank you
Appreciate
for having me. It's so good to spend time with both of you again, and hopefully not the last.
Yeah, absolutely not. Well, all right. On that note, we are going to head out, but don't forget to like and subscribe. Our podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. We upload every Wednesday, and we will see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.